And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at a game called Hoyuk, which sounds like something that Goofy would say all the time. This is a game about building, I believe it's kind of in prehistoric times. You're building village blocks, trying to work with other villagers and kind of cooperate as you build these blocks in a village, but also at the same time be the best at everything. The game has a few different modes, but we're going to take a look here at the full game. Here it is. Now in this game there is a basic, medium, and advanced game. The basic only uses this, the medium, and then the advanced. I'm just showing you everything and all the resources because all the games play similarly. The first thing you'll do each round is each player is going to get one of these building tiles, and this is going to show you what you're going to build. Each player is going to then use their tile and build, and then they're going to get another one and use that tile to build. Now every tile basically says build 2 of your houses and then build something else. Like this one here says a kiln. Sometimes it will be, I can build a kiln or a temple. I can build a kiln here or a corral. Here I can put out a family. And so you have different things that you'll do. Now, most of the things you're going to be building are houses, and each player has a huge stack of houses. Now, when you play houses, I mean, you could pretty much place a house anywhere. All this terrain and stuff you see in the background doesn't really matter. When you build a house, you're basically building a block or a city or a neighborhood or whatever you want to call it. And if you add to that same area, you have to go next to each other, but you can start over here. And other people can also build in the same one. In fact, they're going to want to. You can even, if you want to, build a second story. And there's some rules about placement of second stories, like you can't add it to one that's already out there. That's completely surrounded. But for the most part, players are going to be building these different things, and so multiple players might work together and start building kind of a little neighborhood or a small city here area. And as players do these, they're also going to be putting out these shrines, and you'll put those in a building, or the kiln in a building. They might attach a corral to a building. A corral can have cattle in it. There can be a bunch of people in a building. In fact, there can even be a bunch of people in a building that has something else in it. And so players are going to be placing these out as time goes by. And so that's the first thing players will do each round is build those. Then, other than the first round, you'll draw a catastrophe card. And this catastrophe card will do something. It will either do it to the smallest city, which this one is. So you'll pick the smallest group. And by the way, a group doesn't really count as a scoring group until there are 2 players involved with it. So you're going to want other people to join you in your, wonderful building up an area. So anyway, a smaller or larger, something bad will happen. Sometimes you go down to 1. Sometimes it destroys half the houses. Sometimes it makes you lose cards. And the rule book has different things. And depending on what level of the game you're playing, depends what kind of catastrophes will show up in that deck. Then after you're done with that, then we have what is considered the aspect cards. Now that part is over here on the board. And let me show you real quickly here. Each of these is checked. In each block, in each neighborhood, you're going to check, for example, who has the most kilns. Whoever has the most kilns is going to get this card. Most shrines gets this card. Most corrals gets that card. Here, whoever has the most houses gets this card. Whoever has the most double-decker houses gets that card. The most people and the most cattle. Now these cards are useful for 2 things. They can be turned in before any phase to get points based on the symbol in the upper corner. The picture on the card is kind of there for theming purposes only. It doesn't really matter. But this one here shows a shrine in the corner. So if I turn in a pair of 2 shrine cards, that's going to give me 3 points. But I can also turn this card in to build a shrine before one of the turns. Some cards, like this one here, are wild and can be used as anything. So players are going to win these. Now, it's pretty easy to see who wins each one, whoever has the most. But what if two players are tied? So, for example, here's a shrine and here's a shrine. Well, neither one would get the card, except ties are broken by these double-decker houses. Red did not build one, purple did. So purple would win the tie for the shrine here. So players are going to get these cards. They're going to be able to play them. And at the end of a round, each player is going to take all the cards that they played that round, and you decide which of these piles they will go on the bottom of. So sometimes a pile may run out completely, and players are going to want to maybe win and get cards from that. But if you have the most kilns, for example, here, nothing is going to happen to you. You're not going to get any sort of reward. This will continue on until the end of the game. At the end of the game, which is determined by the number of basically bad cards that will happen to you, or if a player runs out of their houses, the game will end. Then each block is inspected, and whoever has the largest family of each block gets 1 victory point per house. So that's a pretty big deal. And if there's a tie again, it's broken by the 2-story houses. And whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. Component-wise, the game is very nice. It's great chunky tiles. The wooden pieces are easy to see. The whole thing looks really good. The board is kind of superfluous in the background, the water and the trees. Now, the water actually comes into play in an expansion, but for the most part, the background is just basically a big grid to build on, but it provides a nice backdrop. This game has some good and some bad things. The good is the way the blocks form. It is almost kind of this just... it feels almost natural how they form, because you build a small little block, but you want other people to come in it, because if you're the only one there, you don't score anything. Other people are going to want to come in because, hey, this is an easy way to score points. I'll throw in there, and you're ignoring the shrines in that one. I'll come in, I'll be Shrine King. And there certainly is going to be competition back and forth. But it's kind of interesting because you're fighting over different things, but you're looking at the top card in each stack and going, I really want that card because that card will give me more points. At the beginning of the game, you're using these cards because, oh, those extra builds are great, I can control things, but you're throwing points away to do that. You do want to get a set of 5 cards so you can get the maximum amount of points, because that's how you win. But to get points, you need to get more stuff out on the board. The negatives. The building phase is okay, although it does seem unfair when one person gets, ooh, I have 3 choices, and you're building a shrine. That's okay. It's not the end of the world, and I don't mind it as much, but that's just a minor thing. The biggest problem with this game is the catastrophes. Now, I have no problem with the catastrophes in idea form. Hey, you come in, something blows up, this happens, that's great. The problem with the catastrophes is they're completely random. And so someone can just get totally hosed over in this game through no fault of their own. They just happen to have the most houses or the least house. You really don't know what you're supposed to have at any given time. For me, the fix is easy. Flip over a catastrophe card. This is what's coming. There's an earthquake coming, or something along that line, or maybe or another possibility is a show of like the next 2 or 3 catastrophes, but they're shuffled together. So you don't know which of those catastrophes are coming, but you know it's one of that grouping. I find that to be a little bit better because you have kind of this, well, okay, we kind of know what's coming and we're going to work with this. So with some modifications with the catastrophe phase, I think the game, that part of the game isn't that big of a deal, because I do like the fact that, boom, things blow up. Because if someone's winning by a big amount, that's a good way to stop them or to kind of bring things back to an even keel. But when it just happens randomly, I mean, many times I saw the person in last place just get wailed on by the catastrophe because it decided to hit the smallest village or hit the largest village and then hit the shrines, the one thing that person had. And that's going to leave a really sour taste in some people's mouths, because it's like, well, I played well in this game and the catastrophe just ruined me, and there was no way I could prepare for it because I had no idea it was coming. The reason I'm spending so much time talking about this is because it's really that big of a deal in the game. The catastrophes really can make you win or lose, so they need to be fixed in some manner or fashion if you're going to play it. For me, simply saying, this is a catastrophe coming up this round, you guys got to get ready for it. You only have a few builds, but at least you know what's coming, so be careful. Other than that, though, I did enjoy the game. There's that basic, medium, and advanced. Play with the advanced, really. The basic is just too boring. The medium definitely. And the reason the medium is because it counts the number of houses per village, and that's just a very intuitive thing. Hey, I have the most houses here, and that's just a good addition to the game. And then the advanced, adding the cattle and the people is also good. The people can be in spots where other ones are. The cattle, just extra things. Now, realize when you do play with all three, you're going to spend a lot of time counting each block. Okay, who wins this, and this. But it's not that big of a deal, and you just pick the blocks. And by the way, I didn't mention in here two things when I was going over rules. One, there's a shaman, which is a little black meeple guy who can like protect a block. That's kind of cool. Again, not very helpful though if you don't know what block you're supposed to be protecting. But secondly, as you put these different things out, whoever's turn it is to go first is going to pick the way they score, which in the beginning of the game doesn't matter as much, although, hey, I want to score this because I want the top card there. But as time goes by, that can be a really big deal, especially when some of the piles are empty or they're getting close to being empty and you're like, okay, we're scoring that one so that I get my thing before we score this one. When your shrines, sorry, the shrine pile ran out when I scored this one where I was winning in shrines. Definitely a competitive game. Players are going back and forth at each other's throats. Like I said, there's some really cool concepts in the game, and I really did enjoy playing it. The catastrophe thing, though, is enough to bring it from being an excellent game all the way down to just barely being good. With modifications, I liked it a lot more than that. Anyway, that is Hoyuk. Dice Tower Judgment, with some modifications, approved!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.